not least, I'd like to invite Sanjeev Kumar for our closing statement. I know many individuals are actually really interested in learning about the metaverse, and obviously a metaverse apps developer, an author, and a speaker about the topic as well. So really hearing it from the expert himself. So,
thank you,
Sanjeev.
So I think the latest trend of the day is that metaverse leads to the apero. So. How many people have heard about the metaverse already? Lots and lots, yeah. And maybe we can go to the next slide. Right. So there is a lot of hype around the metaverse, and some of you have not heard about the hype probably. I saw some hands not up. So it's a new technology. It's also called as the next version of internet. In the end, it's an immersive experience with technologies like augmented reality and virtual reality. So there is a lot of hype around the metaverse. You're hearing it in the news, and you're also tracking this trend. And the question is also, what is beyond the hype? So what you could do really today, and what customers or companies are doing today with metaverse or about metaverse. So that's something we can spend a few minutes about. And I think the previous speakers already mentioned that there are different use cases companies are already trying. Yeah, so it's in that sense a use case-based evolution and usage of the metaverse. And you can see it like a story. So there are two sides to the metaverse story. There's one side which is a lot of hype, like Fortnite and Decentraland and all of the different names you may hear about, and people talking about metaverse, and there's not a single definition. Everybody has a different view about metaverse, what it is. But in the end, there is clearly a technology which is different from what we had previously. So essentially, with augmented reality, virtual reality, these technologies, you are getting an immersive experience which was not possible earlier, and that means you can do things which were not possible earlier. And that's what we could potentially focus on to get the real value in the early days of the metaverse. So the hype is one part of the story. The second part of the story is the silent adoption. So this is already happening. And this is something which is also giving a hope to the businesses, because the mainstream companies generally don't want to buy into the hype. They want to wait for the hype to settle and then go into the adoption phase. And the good thing is that there are early trends emerging which indicate towards the adoption of the metaverse. And there are many reports, many surveys. One of the reports I quoted here is that when companies become aware about the metaverse, they like to do some use cases with it and try to do the adoption with some concrete use cases. Why do they do this? This is also very important. It's not for some fancy images or some avatars. That's not the driver here from a business perspective. There are different drivers, as you would expect. Productivity gain is one of the key drivers. So there are concrete use cases possible today where you could implement these technologies and achieve the productivity gain. You could really get the business value out of it by improvising some business processes depending on which industry you are in. You could solve some specific problems which were not possible earlier, as these technologies bring an immersive experience, like in a room or in a room like this we are in. You could fill in a hologram and you could have a machine, for instance, appearing in front of you. You could touch the machine. You could, do the activities with the parts of the machine. You could learn about the machine, and so on. This is just one example, and this you could do in real. You could do today, right? So that's the specific problems. Depending on the industry you are in, you might have some problems which can be solved only with the immersive technologies. Otherwise, with previous internet or the 2D approach, it was not possible. So with Metaverse, you get a 3D approach to look at the things and a different level of interaction with the objects and with the information which was not possible earlier. The third one is staying ahead of the competition. So as a business, this is also an important criteria that you can get into the technology and learn about it and do something with it before it becomes very mainstream and your competition already catches up far ahead of you. So this is something which is one of the more important drivers for the businesses or the business scenarios where the companies want to learn about it, want to experiment with it, and want to be a little bit ahead in the game by making sense of what this could do for the business. Yeah? So these are the drivers we see for the businesses to think about and to learn about and to adopt the metaverse. Which industries are the first ones to embrace metaverse? This list is not the perfect one, but from my personal experience, I see these examples. So manufacturing has some very clear use cases. So the learning about complex systems in the manufacturing environment or about the complex equipments. So for instance, learning about an aircraft engine or learning about the engine of a rocket. This you could do far effectively in the metaverse or with the augmented reality, virtual reality, immersive technologies. You could touch and feel, you could do the interaction with the objects, and you could really feel like that particular machine is with you, in front of you at the same time. Yeah, so this changes the reality. This augments your reality, right? So that's one industry. The second one is financial services. Here, I could take an example of reinsurance and insurance industry particularly. And there are many different risk modeling scenarios they need to do, and they need to visualize the impact of the risk factors on the outcomes. And this visualization was like, this was only 2D, and this was not very effective to convey the message of the risk to the audience who needs to understand the outcomes from that risk implication. And this modeling, for instance, flooding, which could happen because of the climate change. What could happen to New York City, for instance, after 30 years if we don't do any intervention in the climate change factors? You could visualize that, and you could feel that like you are getting flooded with that kind of scenario. And that feeling or that immersive experience is not possible with pure internet today or the mobile devices we have. So this is another example. And then in retail, I think the previous speakers mentioned, or otherwise also you probably hear about virtual fashion or the augmented shopping experiences and so on. And last but not the least, so this is the third part of the metaverse story, beyond the hype. What you could start with today. So already previous speakers mentioned about digital onboarding. This is something which, now there are many different templates available, some examples, potentially you could learn from other businesses, or maybe some open source examples available to experiment with how you could do digital onboarding of the employees. And of course, the previous speakers mentioned that you have to also align the factors like how much is the attention span, what is the impact on the health, so have the training duration or the immersive experience duration also, which is more effective and manageable from attention, from health perspective, and then there is a learning outcome which you want. So second one is training and learning. So this is now used by different companies effectively, and then there are many case studies, I think, published by different big companies or medium-sized companies or small companies, that how they have done the training capsules or training modules in the metaverse with immersive experience, people coming together from different parts of the world and learning together at the same time. Virtual collaboration, this is very important use case for certain industries where you are at different locations, in different time zones and different places, but you could feel like you are at the same place. So for instance, I have a HoloLens 2 device at home, and you could really put it on, and you could feel that you are at a place where other people could also join with technology like Mesh and other technologies, and you could collaborate on a project in the metaverse, and there is a real, there is a factor of reality, so you kind of lose the difference between that reality, which is actually not there, and the actual reality. So it really enhances your reality, in that sense. So, and you could solve complex problems. And simulation, so I took an example of the insurance, reinsurance industry, but there are different examples where you want to convey certain messages and certain discussions in a way which you want people to feel that this is the real impact on you, or this is the real outcome which we want, and this you could convey very sharply in a better way with an immersive experience where where people feel like, oh, I can really interact with this particular object, or I can feel this, and I can sense that this is happening to me in reality. And this could be also a different way of communication in that sense, because in the business communications, we often need this kind of capability. So these are the use cases you could start pretty much today. So the hype has kind of landed with much more realistic possibilities. So that's the second part of the story I wanted to share with you, that beyond the hype, what you could do with the metaverse. Thank you very much.